you an SGM update. SGM stands for Strategic Global Mission, which is the official name of our missions ministry. Now, Charity Navigator has given us a rating of 100%, and it's hard to get a 100% rating from Charity Navigator. There's a whole bunch of things you have to do. But for financial and accountability and leadership and adaptability, they gave us an absolute 100% rating. We have all the policies in place we need to have in place, and we're grateful for that rating. The way we receive our income to do the ministry is partners, events, and products. PEP, PEP, partner, events, and products. That's how we fund the ministry. And so we don't do it with gimmicks. One of my greatest joys as a follower of Jesus is when I feel like I'm a part of leading people to faith in Christ, and that I've had a part in that. Now, why do we do what we do? I'll tell you what we do. We give scholarships to young people that are going to college in the ministry, especially church planners. That's what we favor. And we give grants to inner city ministries because those kids cannot support the buses and everything that goes out. And so we support the children's ministry in Los Angeles. We support the children's ministry in Detroit and Pontiac, the children's inner city ministry. And it doesn't take a lot of money to bring one kid to Jesus and reach them before the drug addicts reach them, before the gangs reach them, and before the Muslims reach them. And so Jesus is getting into these young people. It's a beautiful thing. That's our missions branch. But what happened years ago, Smith Wigglesworth was talking to Lester Sumrall, and he began crying. Lester Sumrall said to him, Lester Sumrall was just a young man at that time. He said, Reverend Wigglesworth, if only I could see the miracles you've seen. And Smith got tears in his eyes, and he said, Lester, if only you knew what was coming ahead. God had given him a vision of a massive revival in the last of the last days. Just before Jesus comes, a massive revival. And then out in Los Angeles, Azusa Street, William Seymour had the same vision. And more recently, the old prophet Bob Jones, who's now in heaven, before he went to heaven, he had a vision of what he called the billion souls harvest in the last of the last days. And you'll hear a lot of the prophetic people talking about the billion souls harvest that will surpass the Jesus movement of the 60s and 70s, where millions and millions came to Christ, I being one of them. 2 Chronicles 20:20. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, so shall you prosper. I believe the prophets that have been tested, tried, and true. And Jack Van Impe was my good friend. And before he went to heaven, all he could talk about was the billion souls harvest and how much he wanted to be a part of it. I was a general presbyter in national leadership when Bill Bright came to our general presbyter meeting in Springfield and began talking to us about a billion souls harvest. And then James O. Davis and Bill Bright launched what was called the Global Church Network. And they found out that 90% of all ministers worldwide were not properly trained for the ministry. I'm not talking about just America. I'm talking about in these foreign countries like Russia. For example, they weren't trained properly. So somebody translated my videos on pace-setting leadership into the Russian language. I think it was Kirby Riles. And then got my book in the Russian language for them in Russia, and the Russian bishop made it mandatory for the Russian pastors to go through my pace-setting leadership course. they found that 47 out of 50 pastors are no longer going the distance. They're quitting, they're giving up because they weren't trained in how to handle opposition and resistance and misunderstandings and things that you're going to face in the ministry. And so they drop out. But after training leaders globally, the participants who joined with the Billion Souls Harvest, the Global Church Network, listen to this. This is interesting because this began in 2005 and actually got really going in 2007, where over 5 million ministries partnered together to train leaders and get people ready for the Billion Souls Harvest. That was 17 years ago. And in that 17 years, here is the number of people worldwide that have made a firm commitment to follow Jesus Christ all the days of their life. 1,195,966,115. Over 1 billion people on planet Earth have come to Jesus in just 17 years through this one initiative. And part of the initiative is getting leaders trained and ready for the global harvest. Jesus is coming very soon, and he's coming very suddenly. July 1981, Mary Jo and I checked into the Regal 8 motel. It was $8 a night. I had just became pastor, and we put our little children in the dresser drawers. We didn't close them, but that's where they slept. And Mary Jo and I, we wanted our first night of prayer and seeking the Lord as I was the new pastor here, July 1981. And God spoke to me that night. He spoke to me a prophetic word. He said this, if you will build the people, I'll build the church. And then I read the book on evangelism by Robert Coleman. And I studied lay leadership's research on churches that are exploding with evangelism and discipleship, and found out that there were two keys to evangelism that was greater than any other kind of evangelism. I love friendship evangelism, hospital evangelism, mass evangelism, altar call evangelism, personal evangelism. But the greatest form of evangelism, and this you can research this out, is number one, equipping leaders, training people in disciple leadership. Training people. Number two is planting churches. The greatest form of evangelism. And so I said, we're going to get our pace-setting leadership course on every campus in America, and then we're going to go to Asia, then we'll go to Africa. Here's the map of every place where there are colleges and universities now using the pace-setting leadership course from Mount Hope Church here. Not only that, Destiny College is using it in their master program. So I'm right there with John Maxwell, Sam Chan, and others in developing leaders all across America on these campuses. Even Purdue University is carrying the pace-setting leadership course. It's training and equipping people for the work of the ministry. Now, we're building the Center for Pace-Setting Leadership. Now, we went out on the West Coast as Santa Cruz, which is the #1 New Age occultic city in the world. And we met with campus leaders. How many were there, honey? About 120 or so campus leaders from Washington State, Oregon, California, Nevada, and Hawaii. They all wanted to have the pace-setting leadership course on their campus. So I met with them, and here's some of them. We got pictures of some of them with the pace-setting leadership course. Have you got those slides? Yeah, there they go. They're all happy. They got the art of pace-setting leadership. And we're doing this to campuses around America and teen challenges around America, and it's always 100% free to them. They get the teacher's guide, the student guides, the videos, the whole works. They can do it. They can even teach it themselves. And we're so thankful for your support. It costs us tens of thousands of dollars. But as long as we have the money, it's going to be free every time a campus pastor or a Teen Challenge group wants it. It's free to them. And thank you for your